Now we're going to work on our pendulum experiment. I typically like to do experiments all together, but with this one, it really didn't work. You're going to do it on your own and record your data, and then we're going to come together tomorrow at the end of science to talk about our data together. While you're doing your pendulum experiment, you should have this Google Doc open. You should have done slides 2 and 3 yesterday, along with 4 and 5. We are going to talk about those as we get started. So let's go ahead and talk about our question. So for a question, you should have written something that you wonder about with pendulums. So for example, we are testing string length, release angle, and number of pennies. So I might put for my question, I wonder if the string length of a pendulum affects how many swings it makes. Or I might put, I wonder what affects how many swings a pendulum makes. Or I wonder if the weight affects how many swings a pendulum makes. Any of those questions would work fine. Next, on to hypothesis. So for the hypothesis, remember it's an educated guess about what you think is going to happen. So do you think that the weight will affect the number of swings a pendulum makes? Remember that a hypothesis should always start with, I think that. So do you think that the weight will affect it? Do you think that the string length will affect the number of swings a pendulum makes? Do you think that the release angle will affect the number of strings that a pendulum makes? That's your hypothesis. So as you dive into your experiment, we're going to first collect some baseline data. Remember, we need to do this so that we have something to compare our results to. Then for each experiment, you're going to have 3 slides. The first slide is going to tell you which experiment it is and ask you to identify the independent and dependent variable. Remember that the independent variable is the variable that you are going to change. So it's either going to be the release angle, the number of pennies, or the string length. That's going to be your independent variable. Each time, your dependent variable is going to be the same. It is the number of swings that the pendulum makes. Remember, the dependent variable is what you're measuring. So we are measuring the number of swings that a pendulum makes. Your second slide for each one, you're going to have 4 for each one. Your second one is your hypothesis. Before you begin each experiment, you need to make a hypothesis of what you think is going to happen. For example, for the release angle experiment, you might say, I think that the release angle will make the pendulum swing faster. Whatever your hypothesis is, you need to write it there. Then you have your release angle data. For each experiment, you're going to do it 3 times with 3 different independent variables. So your first release angle is going to be 20, so you could type 20 in there. Your second release angle is going to be 40, and your third is going to be 60. And then you'll put your number of swings in your boxes there. Notice that the other independent variables, the number of pennies and length of string, does not change. Finally, for each experiment, you're going to have an analyze slide. On this analyze slide, you're going to answer 2 questions. How did the release angle affect the number of swings and why? You may not know why. I'm looking for an educated guess on why you think it happened. You're going to do the same for the number of pennies and for the string length. When you get to class data, we're going to do that together tomorrow or Thursday. So make sure that you're not worried about that yet because we're going to do it together. You can go ahead and do your length of string analyze and your report. If you have any questions, you can find me in the Google Meet, and I will see you Thursday towards the end of class. Today we are going to start our pendulum experiment. You're going to need some things for this experiment. You will need a pencil, some string. I'm using yarn. You'll need some scissors. You'll need some tape. You'll need a paper clip or a binder clip. I'm choosing to use a binder clip. This is what a binder clip looks like. And you will also need 4 pennies and a ruler. I don't know if I've said that yet. You'll need a ruler. So the first thing you want to do is you want to tie your string to your pencil and tie a binder clip to the other end. In between the pencil and the binder clip, it should be 12 inches long. So you want your string to be 12 inches long in between the pencil and the binder clip. So go ahead, pause the video, and make your pendulum. Now that we have a pendulum, we want to clip 1 penny into our binder clip. Then we're going to take our pencil. We're going to put the string towards one end of the pencil. We're going to take the end that has the longer bit of pencil and we are going to tape it to our table. So you should now have a pencil taped to a table with a string, with a binder clip, and a penny on the end. Now we're going to go ahead and do our baseline data. Remember, you want to do baseline data to figure out how many times it's truly going to swing in the 15 seconds. So we have something to compare our experiment results to. So I'm going to get my timer. Here I've got my timer. I'm going to set it for 15 seconds. So I'm going to pull my timer up. 0 minutes and 15 seconds. There you can see it. And when I hit start, I'm going to release it. But where I'm going to hold it, I'm going to pick up my binder clip and I'm going to put it all the way up here to where the string is even with the table and I'm holding the binder clip here. And when I hit start on my timer, I'm going to release the binder clip and I'm going to count how many times it swings back to me. So let's hit start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and my timer went off. So I'm going to record that it swung 12 times in those 15 seconds on our baseline data sheet. Go ahead and do this 2 more times so we have a total of 3 baseline data points. Remember, we need more than 1 baseline data point so that we can tell that our research was accurate. If we only had 1, maybe we messed up and dropped it the wrong way. We want to be able to have more than 1 data point. So go ahead, pause your video, do it 2 more times, and record your outcome. Now let's go ahead and look at our first experiment. If you go to experiment 1, it first asks you what the independent and dependent variables are. So the independent variable is the thing that you're changing. And this time, we're going to be changing our release angle. So this is a 0 degrees release angle because it's straight across. We could do a 20-degree release angle, 40-degree release angle, and 60-degree release angle. As you can see, I'm just moving it down a little bit at each time. 20-degree, 40-degree, 60-degree release angle. So our release angle is our independent variable because it's the thing that we are changing. The number of swings is going to be the dependent variable because it's the result that we are measuring. So let's go ahead and get started with this one. First things first, you need to make a hypothesis. Remember, hypotheses start with I think that. So do you think that the release angle being lowered is going to make it swing more or make it swing less? Go ahead and write your hypothesis. Now let's go ahead and start our trials. For our first trial, we're going to put it at 20 degrees. So on your experiment sheet, write 20 degrees is our first trial. Get your 15 seconds timer ready and go ahead and start. And count your number of swings just like you did before. Once you have that trial done, you're going to put it at 40 degrees release. Hit your timer and start. Then you're going to put it at 60 degrees. Hit your timer and start. And count the number of swings it makes. Go ahead and do all 3 of those trials, then come back. Now it's time to analyze your results. So on your analysis page, you need to write what happened during that experiment and why you think it happened. Now we can move on to the second experiment. So your second experiment is going to be the weight of the clip. So we have more pennies here to experiment with. So for our first trial, we're going to add 1 more penny in there. So you can change the number of pennies to 2. And you're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to put it at 0 degrees, and we're going to drop it and count how many times it swings for those 15 seconds. For your second trial, you're going to make it 3 pennies. And for your third trial, you're going to put 4 pennies. 4 pennies will fit in a paper clip. You just have to work pretty hard at it. So go ahead and do those trials. Oh, first you have to do your hypothesis. I forgot. You got to make sure you have your hypothesis in there. Your hypothesis is, I think that. Do you think that the more weight on the clip is going to make it swing more or less. Make sure you do your hypothesis and your independent and dependent variables. Then you can start your trials. Let's work on our third experiment. So the third experiment is going to be the size of the string. So we need to cut some more string. I'm going to cut 3 lengths of string. So I'm going to cut one of them to be 6 inches. And one of them to be 16 inches. You can cut whatever lengths you want. Just try to do them pretty different. And then I think I want to cut one. I need one more because you need 3 total. So I'm going to cut one to be 20 inches. And we'll see if a really long one makes any difference. So measure them out and cut them. Remember, you can do any lengths you want as long as you record it on your recording sheet. So record it on your recording sheet, and you can do any lengths you want. So I'm going to start with my shortest one. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to tie it onto my pencil and tie it onto my clip and do the same thing. But before you do all this, make sure you have your hypothesis done. So do you think the length of string is going to affect the number of swings? Do you think it's going to make it more swings or less swings? Write your hypothesis. I think that. Now I'm going to tie it right onto my pencil. Make sure you only have 1 penny in your clip. That penny is the weight at the end of our string. Because remember, a pendulum must have a weight. Sometimes it's called a bob. All right, so our release angle is going to stay the same. All we're going to do is release it and see how many times it swings in those 15 seconds. You're going to do this 3 times, 1 each time with each length of string. When you're finished, go ahead and do your analysis to figure out which length of string worked best or made it go faster. And let me know if that matched your hypothesis. When you're finished with that, you have a report section. Go ahead and fill out your report section, and I'll give you more information on that later.